Shabbat Shalom. When Justine Yan was in high school, she didn't feel comfortable in a lot of social situations. She had doubts about her ability to make friends, and so she often didn't try. When she was walking down the halls between classes, she was usually by herself. So when she heard about a special summer program that builds intentional community, where each of the 20 participants is supposed to make not just one or two or a few friends, but actually to become friends with the whole group, she decided to try it. Now, the idea of a community where everybody is friends with everyone else may sound preposterous. It's just not how humans typically work. We need close friendships. We need individual, different kinds of relationships. We can't possibly have identical relationships with all of the people in our lives. But in this particular 6-week program, they had some rules and mechanisms in place that all worked to help create this unusual dynamic. The big overarching policy was that no exclusive relationships were allowed. That's not romantic relationships, any relationships. No best friends, no group of set group of people that didn't include someone else. When students left campus, they had to be in groups of 3 or more. The only time that participants spent time one-on-one with each other was when they would actually have a conversation first with their counselor about who they hadn't yet gotten close to. And then they would go on these friend dates to try and develop a rapport. A dynamic did emerge where the whole group of 20 would have long, revealing conversations all together as a group, all 20 of them. Now, obviously, this environment sounds a bit forced and probably may not have been sustainable over a long time. But for Justine, those 6 weeks were a transformative experience. Leaving the program, she felt much more comfortable coming out of her shell and taking chances in social situations. Having been in a place where she felt socially at ease, she was more able afterwards to feel confidence in herself and to reach out to others. I'll come back to Justine later. But for now, I'd like to share a law from Parashat Mishpatim, which at first glance has nothing at all to do with Justine. In chapter 23 of Exodus, God warns judges not to accept a bribe because bribery blinds the open-eyed and perverts the words of the innocent. In other words, bribes change our relationship to the person who is bribing us, and therefore they may actually change our perception of reality. A person may think, I can take this money, but I'll still judge the case fairly. I'm a perceptive, intelligent person. I'm going to pay attention to all the details. I will ask all the right questions, and I'm going to come to the proper conclusions. But the Torah is saying that this may not be true. And of course, social science backs up the Torah on this point. We may not be aware of it, but taking the bribe changes the way we perceive the person who gave it to us. And so it changes the way that we may assess the situation. Now, most of us are not in the habit of taking bribes, I hope. We may never have taken a monetary bribe. And if we're here this morning, I'd like to think we never will in the future. But our rabbis suggest that this verse isn't just about monetary bribes. The Talmud says that even small favors, which it calls verbal bribery, are problematic when accepted by a judge from a party to a case. It gives some mundane seeming examples. Even the simple acts of giving someone a helping hand out of a boat, removing a feather that floated onto someone's head, or covering up spit on the ground to make sure that someone doesn't step on it. All of these things have the potential to influence the way one person sees another, and they therefore fall into this category. Now, this reasoning makes sense, given how easily we can be swayed. But what it means is that Jewish law would have it that judges, and I might add jury members, should never be making decisions regarding people that they know personally. In order for a judge to be impartial, both parties must be on equal footing, and almost any social interaction could provide the opportunity for unfair bias to creep in. Even a tiny favor that a plaintiff or a defendant does for a judge has a tinge of self-interest about it. This dynamic is not limited to judges. A different midrashic tradition points out that Isaac favored his son Esau. Why? Food. Thank you. Esau fed him really good food. The Midrash does a play on words, suggesting that Isaac, who was blinded by his son's gifts. Now, of course, in this Midrash, the word blindness is being used metaphorically. And I want to point out that blind people can be very astute and sighted people can be very clueless. And the rabbis recognize this as well. But the Midrash is suggesting here that Isaac's challenge was not just his physical blindness, but rather a kind of social blindness, an inability to accurately perceive. Because of his preference for Esau, he may not have fully seen Esau's flaws or Jacob's strengths. And as a result, he wasn't able to relate fairly to either of his sons. Now, while I think the Midrash has a point, the rabbis can't possibly have been saying that Esau shouldn't have made tasty food for his father, can they? What's wrong with doing something nice for another human being? Yes, maybe it would be inappropriate to give a judge a helping hand if you're a party to a case they're deciding, but Esau was doing something nice for his dad. Shouldn't we all be giving helping hands to those around us, and especially our family members? We're talking about basic acts of kindness, acts that we want to see more of in this world. Rabbi Eli Konfer, in writing about this topic, says, those who are truly open-eyed understand the ways in which we are all potentially influenced by others, and how even small favors color the way in which we behave and treat others. Perhaps the problem is not that Esau did something nice for his father, assuming that he really did make him food because he cared about him and not to get something out of him. But the problem is with Isaac, who allowed himself to overlook one of his sons because of his special feelings for the other. I think we can take this one step further. In a community, inevitably, people form particular friendships. However, part of what is so special about a community is that we have the opportunity and the responsibility to look out for one another, even for those who aren't our particular friends. We don't have to be friends with everyone, like in Justine Yan's summer program, in order to notice who in our community might use some support, who in our community might be falling through the cracks. A beautiful practice occurs in Jewish communities when someone is sitting Shiva. Everyone in the community is encouraged to come to their home to support them, even people who aren't their friends. We might, in other circumstances, feel social discomfort about calling up or paying a call on someone we don't know very well, but Shiva is a time when it is expected that anyone might come to offer support and caring. A rabbi that I know shared that sometimes people tell him there's no need to send out a bereavement notice about their loss. My friends, people say, already know. This rabbi always responds, your friends may know, but there are other people who aren't your friends who might want to know as well. It's not just our friends who can buoy us up when we need comfort and support. Likewise, when someone is ill, we all have the opportunity to bring food or to visit, and you don't have to be a close friend in order to help out. By the way, at Temple Emunah, we can all take part in the mitzvah of bringing food or providing rides to those who can use the help by volunteering with the Hineni Committee. organized by Jane Aronson. And we can visit sick folks who are sick or lonely through the Hineni Connecting Team, organized by Linda Skolnick. In a courtroom, small favors might be a problem. But in a community, small acts of kindness are central to our lives. And they're the things that we should all be doing for each other. Those teachings from the Talmud about the ways that acts of kindness can make us see each other differently remind us that it is important to notice those folks who we aren't paying as much attention to as well. In a community, we have a responsibility to remember that everyone, no matter who they are and no matter however well we know them, deserves care and attention. Shabbat shalom.